Hello, family, friends, admirers, fans, followers, and everyone. How are you all doing? I trust you are all doing great. Yeah, for those of you who have been following, as you can see, I'm a farmer too, and I've seriously commenced farming activity this year 2025. I'm someone who is very systematic at every work I do, including farm work. So it is not every time that I do what is conventional. Most times I'm creative. In fact, all the time I'm creative. Even if I start doing something the conventional way. And that's because I expect the best out of everything I do. Yeah, so for those who followed the very first day that I started farm work this year, you can see that on that day I did the land clearing and weeding, the farming, and the planting all at once on the same day. Do you remember? Yes, if you watched the video I did and posted for day one of the farm work, then you can easily remember and relate to what I'm saying. Now, one of the reasons I did that is so that I will know about the presence of other living things around, reptiles, rodents, pests, and so on. And I do in fact know, because I was able to see some lizards around, some birds, some insects. I even came across a small scorpion. Yes, on that very first day, I came across a small scorpion. Now, it was easy to detect because of the method or approach I adapted that day, combining all the important farm activities together. So can you see? It's only one reason among many that I had to work that way on day one on the farm. Yeah, so that is that. Another point, you can see me working with a cutlass. Can you see? You can see me working with a cutlass. Yes, I had to adjust my shots too, because I was so seriously involved with work. Yes, that's the cutlass there. There's the cutlass there. You can see what I'm using it for. I'm doing some land clearing and weeding, cutting down the big plants, the trees, branches of trees, to finally clear the whole land or the whole field for my farm activity. Yeah. So back to the cutlass before we continue. Some people will say that the cutlass is a crude farming implement or tool. I don't really agree with that. As a popular African adage says, it is only the lazy person who cannot get his work done that blames his farming tool or implement. You should know what that means. Yes. So it's only such a person that will look at the cutlass, look at any tool in fact, and say that that one is a crude implement or tool. A tool or implement is not crude if it can get the work done. And as you can see here, I am steadily getting the work done. I was steadily getting the work done. You can see the progress. So what then do you call this sort of tool or implement? Simple. Did I say simple? Yeah, you heard me right. I mean, this is a simple implement to really get things done. Yeah. It may not be advanced, but it is simple enough to use. Yeah, better put, I call it simple technology. And that is especially for those who think, including those Africans who think wrongly, of course. They think that Africa had no technology of their own or has no technology of its own. Some think that even if Africa or Africans do have technology, that it is at a low level of development, not qualified to be classified as technology. Okay, again, that is where I disagree. Africa always had its technological development coming up until slavery and colonialism in particular halted the progress of that technological development. Yeah, that is why you can see we are struggling to get a lot done today to catch up with the rest of the world. That is because of that distortion, that setback to the progress of Africa's technological development. Yeah, and for a fact, this simple technology cutlass and other ones are still in use if you go to most African villages today. And that has really got me thinking. You know, it shows that there has been a disconnect at a point. Much of what we're trying to do here in Africa, including technologically, is what suits the West and not what suits us as a people. You bring in the tractors with their set of implements to use on African farms, and I tell you that does a lot of disorientation, if not damage, to the environment and indeed the society. Because just like I say, it doesn't suit us, it doesn't relate to us in any way. Yeah, so I'm not saying we should remain where we were or where our forefathers were before the slave trade and colonialism, But let's get back to the basics. You know, if we had some form of encouragement from the colonialists concerning our technological development, believe me, we would have been at par with the rest of the world. But even the education they brought to us, like we all know, was for their own purposes. The missionaries were using education for their own purposes, both Christians and Muslims. The education was only serving those countries that the religions originated from. The colonialists came and did worse. You know, they taught us how to read and write and to count. And that's what they did basically. But you know, proper education should connect us back to our roots. We should be able to take the simple technologies we're using, advance them further. Yes, and that is exactly the task and mission for us now. You know, the whites would not encourage that while they were here, but now that we are still here and we are the rightful successors of our forefathers, our ancestors, that is the challenge we should pick up now. That is the call all of us should answer. Go further, look at this simple technology. Much of them revolve around wood, clay, and sometimes iron. As you can see on the cutlass, it is more iron than wood because it's supposed to serve a unique purpose. The wood is not doing the work, it's the iron that is doing the work. The wood is only helping to handle the implement, you know. And the way you handle the implement, you don't handle it with full force. You are not too rigid or too flexible with handling it, you know. And then you apply minimal force with more skill, more focus, more perseverance. That's what gets the work done. If I was to use all of my force, no matter how good I was, believe me, I wouldn't have lasted on this particular task or job. And that is not the essence. Yeah, I mean, probably not have been alive to come back and continue work here. Yeah, as you can see, I did all the land clearing on that day and finished up. So the implement served me. We can do better than that. Even as Africans in our farmlands today, we can start to think of automating these simple implements. And by the way, you know that they can serve us even in the absence of electricity, even with little or no electricity. That's what makes them more unique. We can go ahead and think of automating them. As you can see, I was able to cut some firewood. Yeah, it's not just for firewood, I can use it for other things. Here's a tree. I've preserved this one for shelter. And so this is how I did the work. You can see my hands. You can see, you can look carefully, the blisters, the wounds, and what have you. That is the badge of a real farmer. You can see the pain, the patience, the perseverance, the productivity, the power, the prestige, the prosperity, all in the hands. And so I believe you enjoyed hearing this story. Just keep a date, you'll hear even more interesting ones. Bye for now.